boy.
Made
Yeah,
Larry
that's
Ellison the richest man in the world.
yeah. Which I'm sure he's going to do lots of great philanthropical stuff with that money. Hey, welcome to Prompt and Circumstance. My name's David,
And I'm Ilan.
and let's look into some mid-September news.
David, I sometimes think that we should just turn this into a news podcast. There's just so much coming out at all times about AI and vibe coding and how it's impacting the world and productivity and the workplace. I feel like it's impossible to keep up. We did a news episode 2 weeks ago, and there's a whole flood of new stuff going on.
Yeah, there is a lot. And when I was looking at some interesting things to bring up, I've got something from I think 2 months ago, and I was thinking, oh, that's ancient news. That's old time stuff. Yeah,
Right. Why don't you start off?
yeah, sure. So OpenAI and Microsoft, they've been really close for a long time, and I think things are starting to cool down.
Hmm.
For one reason or another. I'm not going to speculate on that. But I think there's some news that really shows how they are maybe diversifying their relationships. So, for example, uh, OpenAI just signed a contract with Oracle to handle some cloud computing, some cloud capabilities.
Yeah,
Um,
$300 billion contract.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine being the sales guy for that, right? Just inking that deal.
Go by
It's like,
1% commission.
yeah, yeah. I'll take $3 billion. That's fine, and then just retire. Um, yeah, high fives all around. I'm sure at Oracle. I think it sent their stock up by double-digit percentages, right?
36% at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, boy,
Made
yeah,
Larry
that's
Ellison the richest man in the world.
yeah. Which I'm sure he's going to do lots of great philanthropical stuff with that money. All right, and no more speculation. Right, so that is a really big deal because OpenAI used to use Azure, Microsoft's cloud platform for all of their compute, I believe. So now they're diversifying.
This is actually not the first time that they've diversified. In May they signed a deal with Google, funnily enough, because Google, one of their main competitors in the LLM space with Gemini, of course, but they need that compute, man. So they signed a deal in May. I don't think it was reported for how much and how much compute and when it would, what were the terms of the deal. But yeah, they're definitely diversifying away from Azure as their only compute provider.
Well, it sounds like it's a great time to be an outside sales rep for cloud computing services. just uh, just work the AI market. Yeah.
That's right.
All right. So it goes both ways in this relationship. So Microsoft is diversifying away from OpenAI. So they are going to be using Anthropic for it looks like going to be the Office suite. So as you know, there's Copilot that's embedded into Office, and based off of some studies that the Microsoft team had done, it looks like Anthropic actually outperformed OpenAI. Some quotes from the article saying things like they found that Anthropic's latest models, such as Claude Sonnet 4, performed better than OpenAI in automating tasks such as financial functions in Excel. They said that although GPT-5 is a step up in quality, Claude Sonnet 4 it actually performs better in creating PowerPoint presentations that were more aesthetically pleasing.
Not having tried out these tools for creating PowerPoint presentations, I will say that the vibe feels right there. That's generally the impression that I've gotten when comparing ChatGPT and Claude. They are obviously both super powerful models. ChatGPT is incredibly competent at a lot of tasks, but Claude has a certain taste that GPT-5 just doesn't seem to have.
Yeah, people have been saying that they often go to Claude to get something that to create copy
Hmm.
that sounds a lot better than what GPT has produced. This also ties into some recent announcements from Anthropic, where Claude can now create and edit files. They have this really impressive demo video where somebody provides information on their food truck business,
Hmm.
and it generates an entire report with charts and analyses and so forth, which is very impressive. Now, I've yet to try it out.
Actually, at the same time, Anthropic also announced that Claude now has memory and team memory, which is pretty cool. I'm excited to dig into that more. But the way they've done it is really cool. It's memory across your teams at a business, so it can maintain context across your entire business. But also inside of projects, it maintains the memory specific to that project, so that you're not kind of like leaking context from
Mm.
one closed item across other items. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I do know that with GPT projects, it can have access to the general memory
mhm.
of GPT for the user. I like the idea that it can have a Teams memory because I haven't heard much in terms of enterprise adoption of Claude.
Separately, Google released an AI report recently talking about cloud AI trends. And it's a 40 odd page report. We'll link it in the show notes. And it had a lot of really interesting insights from them. Of course, pretty self serving to Google, with case studies talking about how people have used Gemini. It makes sense. An interesting fact from this report came out of a study from Stanford, MIT, and NBER, found that access to AI assistants increases worker productivity by about 15% on average. But interestingly, the study also found that workers with less experience and skills improved both the speed and quality of their output, while the most experienced and highest skilled workers saw few gains in speed and a decline in quality.
Yeah, and I wonder whether this has to do with how there simply is more research and work being put into use cases that are at the front lines versus that which would be at the executive level. If you just search online for help with prompts and so forth, you'll see that they are all frontline oriented. I suspect that might be the gap that's manifesting here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very hard to say, hey, Claude, what should my business strategy be?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's tell you about one of our favorite tools, Querio. Querio is an AI agent which sits on top of your data stack and allows you to ask natural language questions to pull out data insights. It's the perfect tool if you're looking to understand market segments and user data, as well as trends within your product. Click on the link in our show notes to try it today and let them know that David and Ilan sent you for 2 months free. On a little bit of a darker note, with regulators are looking into AI for child safety, a report came out last month about the types of prompts that uh, Meta was comfortable with their AI character models responding to minors. And it was, I recommend that people read the report themselves. It went into a very uncomfortable place, both in terms of racism and in terms of sort of sexual activities for
Hmm.
kids. That's triggered regulators to start looking more deeply into child safety for AI. And I think that point that you made about optimizing for the here and now, or the short term, is very much what Meta was going for, right? Let's optimize for getting users on board, and like whatever, we'll figure out the future when we get to the
Engagement.
future.
Yeah.
Exactly.
whatever gets them to continue to talk, right? Even if that means uh, like like romantic conversations
That's right.
inappropriately. Yeah. All right. Well, in even older news, going back to March this year, remember back then, back in the GPT 4.5 days,
Hmm.
some of us might know about the Turing test. And for
What's the
those who don't
Turing
know,
test?
yeah. So here's how it works. This goes back to Alan Turing, where he was speculating about AI. Um, so the Turing test is one where you have a person who is going to evaluate whether or not something talking to that person is a human or a machine. The idea is that if a machine can convince a human that it is a human more than half the time, then that it passes the Turing test. And this is something that two researchers at UC San Diego had been investigating for some time. They've been doing a lot of research on the Turing test, and this paper from March shows that with a decent sized prompt, GPT-4.5 passes the Turing test at, guess the rate.
Well, it has to be above 50% to pass the Turing test. So what is it, David?
It was 73%. So, I mean, think about the implications of this, right? So you have and here's how they ran their test. By the way, you have a human on one side, and you actually have two responders
Hmm.
on either side. Okay, so as a human, I'm the interrogator, as in I'm the one who's deciding whether like which one is human, which one is machine, right? So I send a message and I get a response from A and I get a response from B, and I'm going to say, oh, B sounds like that's the human,
Hmm.
right? Think of the implications of this, that a machine sounds more human than a human does, right? And in terms of like writing marketing copy, in terms of being a customer support agent, in
Hmm.
terms of there's all the implications in terms of being a podcast host.
Are
The
we real?
are we real or are we just hallucinations? Now, related to how AI models might be becoming more human, there's some other news that's a bit more recent. So the August issue of Vogue had an ad for Guess starring an AI model,
Hmm.
not starring GPT, but starring a an image of a person that was entirely synthetic. And so this has meaningful implications, right? So does this mean that there is a threat to human models
Hmm.
when it comes to finding work now? All right, so here is the article on the matter, and this is what those synthetic images look like. So you can imagine that, well, there might be a little bit of pushback because this generated image is that of a blonde haired, blue eyed woman. And the interesting thing is that so the company that had generated the advert. It was founded by these two people, Andrea and Valentina, and they had mentioned that they had tested more diverse models on Instagram. Right,
Hmm.
so here's some examples of, I guess, some of the alternatives. But users didn't engage nearly as much with those models. So what does this mean? What does this imply for people as a whole? I think maybe that some audiences remain biased, unfortunately, and that AI models might be a reflection of that.
Yeah, I agree. I would also say that there's a little bit of selection bias, or I don't know if maybe reversion to the mean is the right term here, because one of the things pointed out in the article, in that BBC article, is that in the previous 10 years up until about the point of ChatGPT, the fashion industry had been making moves to become more inclusive, more diverse. And in the recent years, there's been a trend away from that. I do think that society as a whole tends to be comfortable in stasis, right? Like it's uncomfortable to change the types of images that you're seeing. It's uncomfortable to change your standards of beauty. But if we agree as a society that is important, then there's a certain amount of discomfort that people will just have to face. And, leaders like maybe Vogue magazine would have to just accept that maybe engagement won't be quite as high across the board, but little by little, they will pull the mean of what people think is the standard of beauty towards something that they feel is more inclusive, more diverse, better reflects just society as a whole. So I think saying, yeah, well, we tested this on Instagram and people really engaged with the blonde haired, blue eyed lady, it might be a good test of what's going to earn you the most money or get the most clicks right now. But it's not a good test of, hey, if we want, where do we want the fashion industry
Mm-hmm.
to be? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's optimizing really hard for the short term
Mm-hmm.
rather than long term.
Exactly. Which sounds like LLMs overall. Another last bit of AI news. This is ancient history from 2 weeks ago. Claude found that a hacker had extensively used their products in order to extort 17 companies to the tune of millions of dollars. And
Wow.
basically, this guy went end to end. He used Claude to figure out what companies he should target. He used it to write malware, then used Claude to write the copy of the emails that he should send to the companies to let them know what information he had stolen from them, and suggest the amount that he should request from them. All of this happened within the Claude ecosystem, and of course, the Anthropic folks said, "Well, we're trying our best to maintain security and not allow bad actors to do things like this with our platform."
Well, the rising tide lifts all boats, including pirate ships.
I mean, this was inevitable, and if this is the guy who got caught, I wonder how many are out there who are maybe a little bit more careful and a little bit more savvy and are not getting caught.
Yeah, it's like when you see one cockroach, it means that there's a whole lot others.
That's right. So we'll link to the article. Curious what your thoughts are on this topic and anything that we discussed this week. But with that, we're going to wrap up. You can follow us on the socials at PNC Podcast. You can like and subscribe on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, or wherever you got your podcasts. And we'll see you next week.
See you at the next one.